All righty, welcome into the Rico Report. I'm sad to say that I am not Rico tonight. Judge lied to you the last time he was on covering in for Rico, but I am Jeff Landers. I'm joined by Jeramy in your upper right, Manny in your lower left below me, and Ryan in the lower right-hand corner. This again is the Rico Report. Smash that like button. Get in the comment section. We got a show for you tonight. Rookies reported today. A rookie signed his contract today, the last draft pick to sign for the Bills. And Ryan had a tweet nice and early yesterday morning with the NHL expansion draft this week, tying in some Buffalo Bills content with the Seattle Kraken. So, Ryan, before we start, let's go around. Manny, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. I just got off eye surgery, and so I'm ready to go back into it.
All right, Manny the Pirate, let's toss it over to Ryan. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, guys. This is my second to last content I'll be producing before I take a 3-week break for a vacation. So I'm excited to be on with you guys.
Who takes vacation during training camp? Ryan does. That is who takes vacation during training camp.
It's just it's the way it's the life of a teacher. You got a vacation in the summer.
And Jeramy, any vacation planned during training camp? How you doing tonight?
As far as Bill's podcasting, we're kind of taking random vacations because the only thing to talk about, I feel like, is Cole Beasley's tweets, and who wants to touch that one? So, here and there, that's what we're doing.
All righty. So it is Tuesday, July 20th, and rookies reported today. But before we get to our segment, what we're going to do later is we're going to trade one, cut one, and start one for the rookies. We'll do a roundtable on that. But Ryan, you always have a tweet, is what they're saying in the comment section. In fact, Chris Janke coming in with the fire already. Ryan always has a tweet, is what he says. Tell us about your tweet. Monday morning, you got it in, and tie it in with the NHL expansion draft here.
Yeah, so I find expansion drafts really interesting. I'm not super into hockey. I follow the Sabres to see how they're doing. But I think the idea of expansion drafts are really interesting. The NFL hasn't had an expansion draft since 2002. And I went back and I looked at the rules of that, and I wondered, what might that look like for Buffalo if that was to happen today. And basically the rules of the expansion draft in 2002 were basically anyone who wasn't on IR the year before, which I kind of just ignored that rule because I feel like that would have changed if that had happened today. And basically no one over 10 years of experience. And you had to expose 5 players. The first player in that draft was Tony Baselli, so a guy who's borderline Hall of Fame guy. And I think that's really interesting to think about, and I think it's a really interesting thought experiment to look at this roster. So when I went through it, the way I looked at it in my mind, 5 players that I would expose. So 5 players that I would be okay with potentially losing if the NFL added a 33rd team to the league. And the way it worked in my mind for at least the first couple picks were what contracts would I be okay with losing? Jerry Hughes has more than 10 years, can't go with him, right? Mario Addison is right at 10 years, can't go with him. So the first contract that I was really okay with losing that isn't really good value, and I'll leave some of the ones that I left off, right? Because I think those might come up in the comment section. I didn't do Star. Star, not a great value, but a guy who's going to be pivotal in this defense. A guy that they're going to need to step up and play important snaps in this defense. You could argue the only other really kind of bad values that maybe exist on this team, some might argue Tremaine Edmonds. That's not a guy you're going to leave exposed in this situation. He's someone that has an important role probably going forward, at least in the mind of Buffalo in the next couple of years. So the first couple that I look were just guys that don't have great contracts. Vernon Butler didn't produce last year, isn't getting paid a ton of money, or he's getting paid a pretty decent amount of money, and didn't produce a ton. And a guy that if he leaves, you can maybe make that up with a Justin Zimmer, right? Justin Zimmer played decent enough football last year, and there's guys still on the market that you can use to kind of supplement that with, whether it be a Geno Atkins or a Jarrell Casey, who I've been pounding the table since all the way back in March. And the second guy that I picked, another guy who's not a great value, guy he played well, but a guy that doesn't have a huge role with the type of defense that we play. That's AJ Klein. This isn't a team that plays a whole lot of 3 linebackers. And there's probably depth there. Tyrell Adams could be a guy who played well in Houston. Got to see whether that was a lot of Preston Brown-esque tackles, right? Or whether he was actually good at what he was doing. And, there's some NFL level depth behind them at linebacker and a guy that I think you can afford to lose. And then the last 3 I went with are a little more interchangeable. You can talk me off the ledge on, but guys that I just that I don't love and I'm not super attached to. And one I went with, I've been on record of saying I didn't really want him on the team this year to start with, John Feliciano. I don't think his contract's a super great value. I don't think he's that good of a guard to be making the kind of money that he's making. I think he's fairly replaceable with a guy like Ike Bacher. I went with Bam because he probably has a little bit of value, but a guy that I think just is going to end up being an odd man out on the team when you look at the depth of defensive line. Maybe you could even do an F.A. Obata type player. And then I had a real trouble coming with the fifth one because maybe it speaks to this roster, but there isn't a whole lot of there's not a lot of contracts that you look at on this team and you're like, man, we're paying that guy for the next how many years, or we're paying him how much money, or we can't get out of that contract till when. So the last guy I went with Jaquan Johnson. I just think there's not really a future for him on this team. He's good at special teams, but we just got Damar Hamlin, and I just don't see a future of Jaquan Johnson past his rookie contract. So that's what I went with, and I'd be curious, and I put it out there, and I'm curious, guys, in the comment section, who you guys would leave exposed had the NFL be having an expansion draft.
Well, before we get to you, Manny, because I want you to rebuttal Ryan just a little bit, but Chris Janke's coming in with his 5 exposed players to a potential expansion draft with the NHL expansion draft coming up. This is for the NFL and the Buffalo Bills: Trayvon Hester, Steven Gonzalez, Vernon Butler, Bobby Hart, Lance Lenoir. And I said to the guys pre-show that I think it'd be a lot harder to protect just 5 players than to expose 5 players, especially on this Bills roster. Protecting just 5 would be a lot harder. So, Manny, Ryan has made his case for exposing 5 players. Do you disagree on any of them?
I honestly don't. I could make the case for maybe Cody Ford. It's another contract that you could probably replace with somebody cheaper at that position. But overall, I'm not a big hack guy, and I'd love to get rid of him. I just don't understand that signing as a punter when Corey B was doing just fine and might have been probably almost close to his value too, what they got hacked. And there's great punters out there like Marquette King, who I still don't understand why he doesn't have a contract. But you could find, those are the 2 that I would maybe include in there.
Okay, Jeremy, Richard Rush is coming in with this comment. Butler is by far my least favorite player on the team. He's a waste of space, LOL. Do you agree with Richard Rush, and do you agree with Ryan's list?
I don't disagree with anything Ryan said. And when it comes to Butler, I think about Butler and Addison, and I wonder if, Jerry Hughes wouldn't agree to a contract restructure, which is why we didn't hear about it. So going to my thing, first off, I consider Cody Ford as well. The only thing is I still feel like he deserves a fair shot at guard. He was injured most of last season. With Matt Hawk, with Manny, I did not add him because one of the rules for the expansion draft the last time it happened was no kickers or punters.
Yeah.
So I decided to accept that rule. And the reason I accepted it is because we don't have any other punters on this team. And that's one position group that I feel like McBean is kind of mishandling. The last couple of years, we've gone into training camp with a couple punters, and right now we just have Matt Hawk. If I'm wrong, correct me if I am, but I don't think we have any other punters. So it's kind of crazy, honestly, that that Matt Hawk is the only one. But if I can go through my 5 really quick, again, I don't disagree with any of Ryan's, and I think I saw Ryan's tweet, so I tried to be a little different. And the players I put down, first off, the one I have in common is Daryl Johnson. As far as defensive end goes, he's on the outside looking in. There's so many more defensive ends I would rather give snaps to. The first one I put was Jake Fromm. He's technically been in the NFL for one season, but after signing Mitch Trubisky, I don't understand what Brandon Beane wants to see from this guy. Just let him go. I mean, if what's the saying? If let him go, if you love them, then they'll come back or something. I don't know, but let Jake Fromm go into the wilderness. I don't care about him, but I agreed with Darryl Johnson. One player another one I put on was Antonio Williams. He flashed in week 17. People are going to hate this. I'm sorry, but we need to see Singletary and Moss behind an improved run blocking unit, and we need to give this offensive line a chance to do that. And he's the odd man out because Matt Breida is the only speed really that we have. So I know that's a little bit testy, but I was trying to put players in there that teams might be interested in, and Antonio Williams has some tape that looks pretty well. I put Jake Kumaro because, he flashed because of one target in one game and he had a touchdown, but Aaron Rodgers also liked this guy. And so I thought maybe he could drive up some interest. And then last I put Tommy Doyle, I know we just drafted him in the 5th round, but I just feel like there's a lot ahead of him with Deion Dawkins, Darrell Williams, and then Spencer Brown drafted in the 3rd. So honestly, I feel like
I totally botched that on you, Ryan. I was trying to remove you from the exit solo. I tried to hit exit solo layout, and it just popped me in there. So I must have hit remove from stream. And go ahead, finish your last few sentences there. That's completely my bad, being a bad producer here.
Who was that?
That was you. I said Ryan, and I meant Jeremy.
Where was I at?
You had given me Tommy Doyle, and you were saying how there's a lot in front of him, including Deion Dawkins, and that was the last thing I remember you saying. So,
okay. Bad
producer moment right here.
Yeah, so I threw Tommy Doyle in there again. He was our 2nd offensive tackle drafted behind Spencer Brown, who I feel has like way more upside, and behind Deion Dawkins, Darrell Williams, Spencer Brown. And then whatever they want to do with Ryan Bates, I feel like Tommy Doyle just is not going to see any snaps. So I thought of a player who maybe has some upside that teams might be interested in. I threw him in there.
I also agree with him on Jake Fromm, by the way. I think you have Webb there too. And I find Allen gravitates towards Webb for a lot of guidance and stuff. So with Trubisky there, I don't see what the value of Fromm is.
Well, Richard Rush is on your Jake Kumaro point there, Jeremy. Trade JK to Green Bay for a 7th and make Rodgers happy. Look, I don't think there's anything that's going to make Aaron Rodgers happy at this point with his.
And that's this year's 7th, not next year's 7th.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get a 7th this year. And look, guys, as we try to tie in the Buffalo Bills and the expansion draft type thing with the Sabres going on, it's really easy to look at the bottom of the roster and say, oh, we're just going to expose these 5 players. You can go through and go, okay, maybe Reggie Gilliam, you're going to Bobby Hart, maybe an Andre Smith or a Mike Love. You could just randomly name players who might be 50 through 55 on your roster and say, well, that's good enough for us. But I think the real hard exercise, if you were to go through an expansion draft, would be to actually protect just 5. With this team that's coming off an appearance in the AFC Championship game, if we had to protect just 5, and you go Allen, Diggs, Dawkins, Trey White, then you're split between having to protect Poyer and Hyde, if that's the way you're going to go. So I think a real hard exercise would to be actually to protect 5. I think those would be my 5 just off the top of my head. Jeremy, I'm going to start with you. Give me 5 off the top of your head if you were going to protect just 5 guys in an expansion draft.
Oh man, I hate that you went with me first. Obviously, Allen, would be first. Trey White, I would put in there. Stephon Diggs. You mentioned Deion Dawkins. I would probably go with him as well. And you said that last one is between Poyer and Hyde.
Mhm.
And I feel like people are going to be mad regardless of what I say, but I'm going to go with Hyde. I'm going to go with Micah Hyde over Jordan Poyer. I just feel like, and you guys can come at me, I'm not like the X's and O guy, but I just feel like he's the more intelligent one. I'm going to go with Micah Hyde over Jordan Poyer.
Do either of you disagree, Ryan or Manny?
So, go ahead, Manny.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Okay.
Or Manny. Manny, go ahead.
What I had, I have Allen, Diggs, Trey. I have an exception. Like, obviously you can't expose or protect kickers, but I actually would protect Bass if there was a kicking protection. It's hard to get a good kicker, as you can see. The extra point and the kickoffs and all that stuff is so important now in this game that you need a good kicker, and I think we have a good one to keep for a long time, a young one. But the other two, if the kicker wasn't there, Edmonds, because we have a linebacker no matter how he is. We got a middle linebacker, and that is a hard position to fill that's successful. And the other one is I would probably go with Hyde as well over Poyer would be my fifth one. I think Hyde is just he's a little quieter, and I like that.
All right, Ryan, tell us, make us straight and tell us straight what we're doing wrong here.
First four, dead on. You got to go Allen. You got to go Dawkins. You got to go Diggs. You got to go White. Those are your four most talented players. And then I'm with Chris in the comment section here. Poyer and Hyde are great underrated safeties. But if we're thinking in not a next year window, we're thinking in 5-year windows, who's important to the next 3, 4, 5 years of this team? I'm going to go off the board on this one. And a guy who hasn't quite lived up to the draft type yet, but I think is going to be a Pro Bowl, all-pro caliber player when he hits his ceiling, and that's Ed Oliver, a guy who has flashed the ability to be an elite interior pass rusher at a position that sometimes takes a year or two to develop. And if you can find production at the position, that can be game-changing for your defense. So I'm going Ed Oliver for my number 5th. I might be a little bit off the board.
Can I just say top 5 is super hard? Like, I feel like top
super
10.
Hard.
I mean, because I got to 4, and my 5th one was like between 5 players. So
yeah, top, and that's what makes it hard to do that exercise. I mean, exposing 5 players, like I said, would be the easy way to go. If we expanded it to 7, let's say if I gave you 2 more players, Ryan, who would you do? Who would you put on your 6 and 7?
I'm gonna go Spencer Brown. Offensive line, I think not this year, which we'll talk about when we get to him. I know we're going to talk about him, so I'll save all my points on him. It's just to say that offensive line, especially when you're paying a quarterback, whatever it's going to be paying him, $45 million a year, you got to protect him. He's going to be a big part of this team going forward. And for my 7, I think I would go with, when you look at the way, I'll go Edmonds for my 7. A guy who I think gets a lot of hate. I think he's a good kind of guy outside the top 5, but I think is going to play an important role in a McDermott defense for years to come.
Okay, Manny, give me a 6 and a 7, and do you disagree with Ryan?
I don't. I think Spencer Brown and Dawkins would be my 6 and 7. You have a big investment in Josh Allen. He's going to be a big investment here coming soon, and you need to protect him, and you got to get the 2 most talented guys, I think, that are going to be there, not just for right now, but Spencer Brown is a protection for long term. He's young, and he hasn't even played a snap, and you would want to protect somebody like that so that, he brings in value years to come. Same as Edmonds. It's kind of the same thing. They're young guys, and you want them to perform, right? So you got to give them a chance here.
Okay, Jeremy, give me a 6 and a 7.
I'm going to piggyback off Ryan and go with Ed Oliver, because I really want to see Ed Oliver in his 3rd year with an actual 1 tech rotation next to him. But I'm going to go with Milano over Edmonds because I feel like we just have to be honest. Milano has been more impressive like over his span so far. I love Edmonds. I still want to see like what he can grow into, but if we're going off of what we've seen so far, I got to go with Milano and what he contributes to his defense.
I saw Milano's name. My only thing is how much of his success is on Edmonds being the middle linebacker.
I feel like it's almost the opposite. There's so many people saying that how much of like Edmonds' success is based on Milano's presence, and again, I'm not trying to like. I've just heard that. So if smarter people can,
that's the thing. That's been the argument, right? Who's helping who?
Yeah. Unfortunately, Milano's been the more injured one, so it'd be almost. I would hate to see Edmonds go down, but we'd almost like. If we're gonna be scientists about it, it's like let's see Edmonds go down for a little bit and see how this defense performed with Milano and like a backup middle linebacker.
Yeah, I think for me it was just positional value. Edmonds has been a little bit has to still play better. He had a really good 2019, regressed in 2020. We need to see him get back to 2019 and beyond. But when you're just considering positional value, I think him at middle linebacker for me, and I think it's a little bit in either direction. It's not a massive gap between them if we're in this thought experiment. It's just for me it was just positional value, and I think if you're ranking positional value on defense and in a McDermott defense specifically, that middle linebacker is going to be a little bit more important than that outside linebacker.
Yeah, I agree. But I've actually seen film, and by that I mean I've watched other people streaming film because I don't know how to watch it, but they've shown like Milano like calling plays as well. So I know how much the middle linebacker position is important to McBean, whatever you want to call it. But it's just right now, like I said, by what we've seen so far, I feel like Milano almost has the edge because, again, you've seen his intelligence come through as well in the defense.
All right. Those are our players that we're going to expose and or protect in an expansion draft. I think it created some good dialogue here, but you guys wanted to protect a rookie. Hasn't played it down in the NFL, and that's Spencer Brown. Signed his contract today, 4-year contract for the draft pick out of Northern Iowa. I believe he was the last rookie draft pick to sign. He played in 33 games, 32 starts at Northern Iowa. And Ryan, I'm going to start with you. The question is, with Spencer Brown, how many games will he start in 2021? Because what I'm thinking back to is when Milano kept competing with Ramon Humber in Milano's first year, and it finally clicked in about 5 or 6 weeks that Milano just usurped him. Does Spencer Brown usurp Darrell Williams at any point in 2021?
So if you follow our show account at 585 Report, or you follow Pierre, you know we've had a public disagreement about this. I think you got to give Spencer Brown time. I don't think the same type of players, and it's not the same type of position that he's playing. Spencer Brown in high school didn't play tackle, played tight end in 8-man football in Iowa. He goes to Northern Iowa, and he does well. He does the things you want to see a small school or a lower division prospect do. He dominates tape. Great. He's big. He's got all the size. He's got all the athleticism. He goes to the Senior Bowl, and he doesn't have the best Senior Bowl in the world, gets dominated by some bigger school talent, or gets beat a little bit by some bigger school talent. So clearly and he didn't play it all last year. So yes, he goes to Joe Staley's camp out in California and trains with him all year, but he's still incredibly raw. What's that term that McDermott and us as fans who are clicked into that kind of stuff talk about with developmental prospects like Dawson Knox? Time on task. He's played 33 career games at tackle, and that's it. He needs more time on task. I think he can contribute. He can absolutely be that 6th offensive lineman, that swing tackle. He can almost be that. Joe Marino brings up a really good point. He can almost be Lee Smith with the athleticism that he has. He can be a guy that you line up in goal line situations or short yardage situations and run a leak or some of those kind of trick plays that Brian Dable uses, but he's not someone you're going to want to throw into the Lions. 2022, let's come back and let's put him in there, but you're paying Darrell Williams top, near top tier tackle money. He played really well last year. It's not quite this. He's better than Ramon Humber was at linebacker. And I just don't think there's a reason to rush him in, unless obviously there could be a world where they go into camp and Spencer Brown's chucking dudes and Darrell Williams is terrible and a couple, but I think it is a situation where you don't have to throw him to the Lions yet. So let's ease him in, let him figure it out, let him learn behind experience, guys like Dawkins and Darrell Williams. And then we can talk about this in 2022 when that contract of Darrell Williams, you can get out of that if you want to.
Jeremy, I'm going to toss this one over to you. Do you think Spencer Brown gets any starts? It is saved for injury. We can always say, yeah, he'll start 2 games because Darrell Williams is going to be out with an ankle or whatever it may be. But will Spencer Brown earn some starts just by pure physical ability?
Well, Jeff, I was going to throw this back to you, and I was going to say, if I was your friend and I woke up from a coma, and the first question I asked you was, who's the Bills' starting offensive line? And you went down the row and said that Spencer Brown was starting, I would say, what happened to Darrell Williams? Like, that would be my first question. Like, what happened to Darrell Williams or what happened to Deion Dawkins? They were both great last season. Yep. So if Spencer Brown is starting at all, I would say, who got injured? That would be my first question. Who got injured? And if you said nobody got injured, I would say, well, then who collapsed in the offseason? Like, who had a Richard Sherman incident and is no longer available to play? Sorry, I'm not trying to be mean, but like so my point is, despite a injury or a week 17 like clinch, I don't see Spencer Brown starting. And to be honest, when I got on Twitter today and I saw all these Spencer Brown signings, at this point in the offseason, I was like, wait, who's Spencer Brown again? And then I was like, oh, we drafted him. It just took this long to sign him. Cool. But no, I don't see him starting at all, despite an injury or a week 17 like clinch.
To answer your question, Spencer Brown is the guy who got told the same thing by Sean McDermott that he told Josh Allen after jumping over Anthony Barr. Like, that's great. Don't ever do it again. When Spencer Brown jumped into the table after getting drafted by the Bills. Manny, Jeremy says he's trying not to be mean, and I can't imagine that there's a mean bone anywhere in your body. But can you be mean about this? Can you tell the other two why they're wrong, or do you agree with them?
I actually agree with them. I think.
Oh, come on, Manny. Be mean a little bit.
I'm trying to be mean, but I totally agree with them. I've been the guy who always says that, like, McDermott likes to ease players in. He did it with Ed Oliver on the defensive side. He's going to do it with Russo. He's going to do it with Spencer Brown. But I can see him coming in. It's not like he's not going to play. I think I agree with Ryan, like the Lee Smith position. You can bring him in as a swing tackle. There's so many ways to incorporate him into it just because of the other positions that he's played in. But I think starts, unless there's an injury, no.
So no Wally Pipp.
I think the world where it happens is where, more likely is that, let's say the guard play is horrendous this year, right? Let's say Cody Ford doesn't figure it out. Let's say Cody Ford regresses again from last year, and for some reason you need to kick Darrell Williams inside. And I think that's the world where it happens. I think it's a lot harder to see a world where Spencer Brown one-on-one beats out Darrell Williams for that starting right tackle job.
And McDermott will give him a chance. If Cody Ford struggles, he won't take him out like after 2 or 3 games. He's going to wait till it's a couple of games that he starts playing bad.
Yeah, just my opinion, Cody Ford needs to just stay off Twitter and not engage the trolls. We all saw that yesterday. Leave the trolls be. They're going to be there. What the kid did, what the guy did on Twitter, yeah, probably wasn't right, but probably shouldn't engage in that anyway. Start that firestorm. So we talked about one rookie The rookies reported to Orchard Park today among veterans who are there working out. And I want to play a little game. Who would you cut? If you could, you got to pick one for each. Who would you cut? Who would you trade? Who would you start? If you're Brandon Bean and Manny, I'm going to start with you. I want you to be mean with this one. Cut one rookie right now if you had to.
Stevenson. And I know people are going to hate me for that, but we have Isaiah McKenzie, and I know a lot of people hate Isaiah McKenzie, but he's doing the job that he needs to do. I don't know why we need another guy like McKenzie in there. I don't see where he fits. Gabe Davis is there, and Sanders is there, and McKenzie's been a guy, like he's been a Bills guy, like they love him, and I don't see Stevenson. That's who I'd cut. I just don't see him, and I know people are going to hate me for that one.
Okay, Ryan, who are you going to cut, and why is Manny wrong?
So, when you talk about people who don't like McKenzie, I kind of have that reputation, seeing how Mr. McKenzie came directly at me for a tweet earlier this offseason. I'm gonna go against.
He had 8 touchdowns, right?
I'm gonna go against him. Isaiah McKenzie is nothing special. Isaiah McKenzie has been great in the role Brian Daboll has made for him, which is being a gadget guy, but he doesn't make contested catches besides that one time in Seattle. Almost every touchdown that he had were manufactured plays where he's getting the ball behind the line of scrimmage, plays that are drawn up to get him open. He's not getting open on his own. We talk about him being a punt returner or a kick returner. Yes, he had the one kick return this year. Great. Last time he returned punts, not only did he get demoted to backup punt returner, he got demoted to third string punt returner. Who returns punts when Roberts went down? It was Hyde, because McKenzie was so horrid at returning punts and holding on to that football. There is nothing special about what Isaiah McKenzie brings to this team anymore, and his contract doesn't make it special. I'm going on a tangent away from the question here. My point is, you know who I'm gonna. So
I did ask you why Manny was wrong. So Manny, when I asked you to be mean, that's what I'm trying to get at right there. Is what Ryan just threw at you.
I feel like I have to rebuttal to that later on someday.
I will allow you a rebuttal. 1 minute rebuttal when Ryan is done.
Well, and so who I'm gonna. So my point is, who I'm gonna say start, because we know who my point is that we know who Isaiah McKenzie is. I think Stevenson gives you so much more in terms that he has probably a little bit more speed. I think can create on his own, has success punt returning, or it's not punt returning as much, but kick returning in college. My cut on this team was. My cut that I went to, and something that actually, Jeremy, I'm glad you said before, is I went Tommy Doyle. Like I love Tommy Doyle in the draft, but I just think it's like a baseball team when you have a prospect that's really good, but they're stuck behind, 2 guys that are also really good ahead of them. I just think that there's a bit of a wall in front of Tommy Doyle. So when this thought experiment where we have to cut a rookie, I think Tommy Doyle just is a little redundant. They say he can play guard, but the dude's 6'8". He probably can't play guard, or at least isn't playing guard anytime soon. So that's my cut.
Okay, so before I bring Jeremy in, and Jeremy, are you frozen? Can you give me a move there? Looks like you might be. Okay, there you are. Looks like you were frozen just a little bit. I got you now.
I'm like Drax. I'm so good at staying still. I was like invisible.
Gotcha. Before you give me your cut, unless your cut is the same as the tiebreaker, give me the tiebreaker before you give me your cut. Are you cutting Stevenson, or are you going with McKenzie, or are you cutting McKenzie in favor of Stevenson?
It's a little bit of both.
That's not a tiebreaker,
right?
What?
So, less nuance.
You are a member of Congress. You're playing both sides.
Hey, don't insult me like that.
We call it the House of Commons, by the way. We don't have Congress here. So.
Yeah, you Canadians.
Oh, we need a translator.
Yeah, if Rico was here, he could translate for us.
Right.
The Canadians. All right, give me the tiebreaker.
So my thought was with Steve. Okay, so I'm going to piggyback off Ryan a lot. McKenzie's claim to fame, and you've seen this in his tweets because he came after Ryan with these tweets. He's like, I scored 8 touchdowns. Great, that's fantastic. Like, you scored 8 touchdowns in an offense that almost broke the record for most touchdowns scored by like the most different players. And to me, that thing's like that's Brian Dable. Like, Brian Dable like did fantastic with those weapons. So for you to sit there and say like, oh, my talents got me those 8 touchdowns, I don't really think they did. Like, and I'm sorry. So, however, I feel like this actually not again. For the first time, I feel like the kick and punt return situation is not being handled very well. We let Andre Roberts go. McKenzie took a step in the right direction in the Week 17 Dolphins game. I will say that. However, he is still going to make us nervous because of how he played previously. So, does he go up in rank? Absolutely. But has he like have star worries? No. So that can't really be a tiebreaker. I don't know where I'm going.
Hey, there, Jeremy. I'm going to kick you out here for a second. Maybe you could let your stream catch up. It sounded like he was going to go with Ryan on this one, Manny. So I will give you the 1 minute rebuttal for McKenzie because truth to heart's coming in with the fire here. So you don't believe players grow. McKenzie isn't special, ? Players like McKenzie have proven to be X factors when given the opportunity. I've seen games where McKenzie was open and Allen looked away. Okay, go ahead and rebuttal and agree with truth to hearts here.
Look, Stevenson hasn't proven anything. We haven't even seen him. He was good in college. College doesn't mean you're good in the pros. The pros is a whole different game. When you got bigger guys coming at you, when you're trying to punt return, it's going to be a different thing. McKenzie is a gadget guy, but look at Tavon Austin. There's a lot of guys over the years. Gadget guys are X factors. He's exactly right. He is built for that position. Is Stevenson going to come do that? We don't know. We have a proven guy who can do that. And so why not keep the guy who's proven rather than try to see if this guy can do it or not? That's my thing. And his contract's not even that bad. Like, honestly, If you really look at it, it's not that bad.
A veteran minimum, I believe, if I recall correctly, is McKenzie's deal. But if here's what I'm going to go with against you, and it's just a slight knock against your argument here, Manny, is that if Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott want to consistently do the draft and develop, I think that puts just slightly more value on Stevenson because we know what McKenzie is and what he can do. Yes, he could probably break out just a little bit more. He could break through his ceiling, but I think there's that extrinsic value in time in drafting and developing Stevenson and maybe having a bigger ceiling later on with him. And that's where I think that the coaching staff might go later on. So
I agree, but they did that with Gabe Davis, obviously, right? But the thing is, you're gonna have to have guys that are already developed to play now. You can't just always hope that another Gabe Davis is going to show up, right? So,
all right, Jeremy, I think you have to give me your cut because you were breaking the tie, and I believe you went with Ryan's side here. So, Jeff King coming in with the super chat. Thank you very much, Jeff King. Look at this, $50. Thank you so much. We all appreciate you here. Jeff King says, how's about this? How's about this is the year? This is the year we finally win the Lombardi. For all of us the fans, for the teams of the 90s who gave us so much joy, and for a city with the greatest fan base in the entire NFL. Jeff King, I believe all four of us here are going to give you a big old gold Bills for that comment, because I think the Lombardi belongs in Orchard Park. So let's give Jeff King a big old go Bills. Go Bills. We love that comment.
Go Bills.
Go
And
Bills.
certainly appreciate your contributions, Jeff King. Jeramy, give me your cut.
So am I good so far, everybody?
Yeah, yep, you sound good.
All right. So again, I'm talking about, I was piggybacking off of Ryan about, Isaiah McKenzie not quite earning his spot. And, but also I'm listening to Manny talk about Stevenson also being cut. So I don't know if I can even be a tiebreaker, but however, I think the Bills have to stick with Isaiah McKenzie because again, he took the step forward in the Week 17 game, and they unfortunately have kind of cornered themselves into like having to go with McKenzie. If they had to go from Andre Roberts to keeping two receivers on the roster because they couldn't take up somebody who could do both jobs, to me that looks like a downgrade. So I feel like they almost have to give it to McKenzie, but we have preseason to see how that works out.
Wow, I might have been wrong. I think he's siding with you, Manny.
Yeah,
through all that technical difficulties, it sounds like he actually sided with you. Ryan, you're now the odd man out, although I still think the...
I'm sorry. I want to side with Ryan, but I just feel like McBean has put us in this place to go this route. Ryan, do you agree?
I'll say one more thing on all this. Isaiah McKenzie put up under 300 yards of total offense when you count in everything. That is not that hard to reproduce when you consider the type of touches he was getting. He's not running downfield. He's not beating guys out of the slot. And this isn't me being angry at you. I've been fighting this issue all offseason. He's not. You say good teams have X factors, yes, but Tavon Austin is a replaceable player. Isaiah McKenzie type of players are replaceable. That's why he got $1.5 million from the Bills, not $4, $5, $6 million from the Bills, and why he came back after being a free agent for however long it was in free agent that he was out on the streets. 300 yards, you can reproduce that. There's not going to be a huge drop off, if any, between him and Stevenson when you look at their skill sets. Yes, we got to see how they play out in the preseason. We got to see how it works. But they're all 8 touchdowns. This is my issue with the 8 touchdowns.
I think he's trolling you. I really think he's trying to troll you.
I think so.
It gets me worked up. No, but the 8 touchdowns, yes, 8 touchdowns is 8 touchdowns, but a lot of those touchdowns were things that were drawn up. They were plays that were specifically drawn up. We're going to get McKenzie open over here because of, we're running this route concept and it works and they're throwing it to him. He's not beating them on his own. He's not a particularly special talent that he's shown over his first, how many years has been in the NFL now?
Ryan, if I can say, I think this also goes with Gabe Davis. Like Gabe Davis, as a rookie, had almost 600 yards and 7 touchdowns. So again, does this not go back to Brian Daboll and the fact that if we lose Gabe Davis or if we lose Isaiah McKenzie, we're done? Again, I think this goes to Brian Daboll and not so much Isaiah McKenzie.
Yes, exactly.
And Isaiah McKenzie, if you're watching, don't at me. This is not my real Twitter at the bottom. Go after Ryan. You know him. Yeah, he hates you.
All right. We got some good debate on this topic. Now, I want to adjust it from the cut to the trade. Who are we trading? And Jeramy, I'm going to start with you because you went last here. So who are you trading among the rookies who reported today?
Is that even a thing though? That's so mean. It's got to trade rookies.
Well, I mean, was Wyatt Teller a rookie when he wasn't going to make the team?
No, he was going on his second year.
Second year. That's right. Okay.
Yeah, so he was not a rookie. Again, how do you trade a rookie? I got to think of somebody who's coming in the rookie year that I can maybe drum up some. I guess, again, I have to go with Tommy Doyle. Like I said, we got him the 5th round. I know he's got things that you can sell. Again, I'm not the X's and O's guy. I can't talk about that. But after that, how do you try and trade a 5th round or after drafted player who's never even played it down yet? So, Jeff, I'm going to throw it back to you because I have no idea.
Well, here's Chris Janke, and he's going to back me up on trades. So trade Tommy Doyle. You typically get high value in trades for offensive linemen, and that's kind of where you're going with this, unless you can think of a team who's in desperate need of defensive line help.
Brandon Beane can probably get a 3rd round for Tommy Doyle. Am I wrong?
Yeah, probably a 2023 3rd rounder. You wouldn't be wrong if you went an extra year instead of 2022. So Tommy Doyle, are you both in agreement? Manny, I'll start with you, or are you going with someone else?
Well, I would have traded Mark Stevenson here too, but everybody needs a receiver once in a while. I think either Wild Goose or whatever his name is, the cornerback that we drafted, or Tommy Doyle. I think I agree with Chris. I think you get pretty good for an old lineman. You can get pretty good draft picks for it. So yeah, that one's a little easier.
Yeah, Chris Janke's reminding us of the Russell Bodine and a 7th for Marshall Newhouse. I think Bodine went to the Patriots, right? If Brandon Beane can fleece Bill Belichick,
I think he got a 5th for Russell Bodine. Just throwing that out there.
So Manny wants to go back to the Marquez Stevenson discussion, and is that where you're going, Ryan? You're not going to trade Marquez Stevenson on the day he
No. I went. I'm going to go Wild Goose. I think there's always a guy who I think's probably a little bit more of a ball of traits than someone else you might get in the 7th round in terms of his speed and versatility. And, he's a 7th round pick. So in the real world, yeah, you're probably not getting draft value for him. But in this hypothetical thought experiment, I think teams are always trying to find that ball of traits that can produce at a premium position cheaply. And I think Wild Goose is exactly that. Tommy Doyle's great, played smaller division football. Wild Goose played at Wisconsin. So I think you can talk me into cutting or trading either one of those two, but I think those are for my trade. I'll go Wild Goose.
Ryan said maybe you can't get like draft capital, but maybe you can get another weight bench and a medicine ball.
Well, it's like the same.
When it comes to trading, I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt. We're going to move on after I make this quick quib. When it comes to trading, screw the rookies. I'm trading Duke Williams. So let's move on with that.
No, you can't move on.
Yes, you can.
Hurts.
You can't move on after that.
Why can I not move on from that? The Duke Williams experiment.
I love Duke. He played.
He played in the Canadian Football League. We know that, but I think
Ryan,
the Duke Williams experiment is over.
Can we move on after that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree. It's over. So we'll move on.
Okay. Because we had that discussion on the Air Raid Hour 2 weeks ago. Jeremy and I did. That the Duke Williams experiment's pretty much over.
I just wanted to make sure we had other people's input.
Yeah. Soft spot. I got a soft spot for him.
For wide receivers who can move forward at the snap. That's what you have a soft spot for. Okay, so rookies reported today. That's what this discussion has been about for the last 20 minutes or so. We've cut a rookie. We've traded a rookie. Now we're going to start a rookie. And Ryan, I believe your turn to go first. So if you had to start a rookie on this roster, who is that rookie going to be? And I guess why is it Spencer Brown?
We are going the speedster, the next X factor on this offense, our next kick returner on this offense, Marquez Stevenson, deep threat, guy who's going to take the ball off this defense, a guy who is going to give us more in terms of traits and more in terms of ability than Isaiah McKenzie. Marquez Stevenson, I think, can come in and get more offensive production than Isaiah McKenzie did last year. I think he can be a better returner than Isaiah McKenzie. And you're going to have him at a similar value for 4 years, though. the future of this offense, the future of this gadget player is going to be Marquez Stevenson. Isaiah McKenzie is yesterday's news. The now is Marquez Stevenson. Write him in pen, Marquez Stevenson, 2021 starter.
Okay, write it in pen. I got a pen right here. Ryan with the hot take, unlike his cold food takes.
Yeah.
Jeremy,
Elite takes.
oh, we can end the show later on with foods that we would expose to an expansion draft, and I bet we could go for an extra hour on that. Jeremy, give me a starter, and please tell me why. Please tell me why Ryan is wrong.
And we're talking about a starter out of the rookie class.
Out of the rookie class, who's going to start and why? And why is Ryan wrong?
I mean, if we're talking about Marcus Stevenson, again, I need to know like how he's doing with punt returns because we know he can do kick returns. So I got to see the punt return game. So I don't know about that. Outside of him, how about? I think I wrote down. How about Boogie over Mario Addison?
Okay, make the case.
The case is that he actually came off as the more NFL ready over Greg Rousseau, and Mario Addison was kind of not what we expected him to be. He had at least like 6 sacks over the past like 70 years, but for some reason, he only had 5 this year. So, and Jerry Hughes plays his hearts out. Like if you're talking about cutting Jerry Hughes, get out of here. Stop it. Leave. All right. Jerry Hughes plays so hard for this defensive end. I mean, unless he got addicted to crack over the offseason and he comes in ready to just like steal from other players' lockers, get out of here about cutting Jerry Hughes. Like he is probably going. I will predict that Jerry Hughes like does the exact same thing he does last year because he's just consistent and he's also a little crazy. And that craziness is going to carry over into consistency. That's a science. Don't at me on it. Whatever. So how about we tell Mario Addison to take a seat and put Boogie Basham in there? And
Truth to Hearts is I had this one up. Truth to Hearts is saying Rousseau will start. Book it. That would be a very big surprise for a lot of Bills fans, I think, because like you said, Jeremy, Boogie's going to be much more NFL ready. Rousseau had a year off. We all know the talking points around these guys. So if Rousseau comes in and starts right away on this offensive line, that would be Brandon Beane putting $100 down in the middle of the roulette table at 35-1 odds and hitting on just the one bet, $100 bet.
Yeah. And I will say, I guess I wouldn't be too surprised on that because I think it was Leslie Frazier straight up came out and said that Greg Rousseau, like you tell him what to fix and he does it on the very next rep. So I wouldn't be too surprised to see Greg Rousseau like coming out and getting more snaps right off the bat because of that comment from Leslie Frazier. Like he said, you tell him to fix something and he goes out and does it on the very next step. So the fact that he can correct things like so quickly, I think that's definitely like an arrow up, right?
Yes, I agree on the arrow up. But before I get to you, Manny, we got some good comment section going on. Vlad Ostrov coming in with this one says, McKenzie will lead all wide receivers in TD receptions. And then the best comeback from Lone Wolf says, for what team, Vlad? He doesn't think it's going to be for the Bills.
Yeah,
he doesn't think it's going to be for the Bills. So you got some debate going on here, Manny, with the McKenzie takes. But I need you to start a rookie.
Jeremy took my guy.
Sorry.
You know, like you guys have heard me in the chats. I've been very vocal about the defensive line and how we need to change that defensive line. And he went out and got 2 guys to play. So I don't care which one starts. One of those guys got to start and change that D line. I think it's going to be Basham just because he's NFL ready. He's ready to go. And I think, like I said before, McDermott likes to ease these guys in. So I think Rousseau will probably be a guy who'll come in here and there for Hughes and Basham, but honestly, if I could start, it'd be Hughes and Basham right now.
Can I just say, can we stop with the McDermott likes to ease people in? Trey White and Trey Edmonds were given the jobs like right off the bus. And I know that's only 2, but
it's only 2. That's the point.
Yeah.
Were those 2 out of necessity, though? I mean,
Yeah.
Trey White.
I understand, but to say that he's just gonna he's gonna make it work for her. Like, he's shown twice, and it's almost some of the best players on our defense. Well, not the best players. Trey White is one of the best, but Trey Edmonds is working his way up. Milano took a time, but I feel like, I'm sorry, you can almost step off the bus, and if you do the job right, you can get it.
I think Edmonds was they had nobody else to play that, so he had to play. And Trey White, sure, a little bit, but everybody else,
who do they have over Trey White? Like, if you want to compare like Edmonds' backups to Trey White's backups, maybe that's another podcast. I'm sorry, but
yeah, you know what? You guys can debate. Keep that for a topic for training camp for sure. And another one. Go ahead and write that one down right now, Jeremy, because you're going to want to debate that one later on. Trey White's backups versus Edmonds' backups.
Yeah.
So that was cut, start, and trade among the rookies. But we're almost to training camp. In training camp, you see a lot of turnover. You see, the cut downs from 90 to 75 down to 53. And then you get the trades coming in with training camp, especially as training camp winds down. So one question I had for you guys tonight as well is there a player that was cut or traded or released or whatever you have by Brandon Beane, specifically Brandon Beane in his tenure, that you wish to have back? Some of the names that come to mind right away were Shady McCoy ahead of 2019. As I was going through the transaction list, one name that stood out to me just because it was an awesome name was Gerhard de Beer, just because his last name was De Beer, and we loved having that on a Bills jersey. Who would you want back, and would they be able to make this roster? It's 2 separate questions. So you could say, yes, I would love to have Shady McCoy back, but no, I don't think he'd make this roster. Something like that. And Jeremy is itching to get going on this one. He's politely raising his hand. Yeah, Jeremy.
I feel like the obvious one is Wyatt Teller. So
I think we all agree on that one.
Let's get that out of the way. Outside of Wyatt Teller, I don't have any idea. So I just wanted to clear the air for everybody else.
You have no idea.
Is there anybody when it comes to Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott? Yeah, like besides Wyatt Teller, please let me know. I'm curious. That's why I'm here, actually. I just want to know the answer to that question.
Is that why you're here?
Yeah, I had other things.
Okay, if that's the only reason why you're here, I just should remove you from stream right here on this.
Well, and because I was like, these beautiful men are going to be here. That was the second thing. If I'm going to put something else out there, so I'm sorry.
Okay, Ryan, you're leaning in. Looks like you have something to say.
So I have a guy that who was a project for a couple years on this roster. We got off the train about 2 years too early with him, and he balled out with respective to his position with 670 yards this year on an offense that struggled with bad quarterback play, and that's Logan Thomas. Logan Thomas was a legitimately good tight end this year. Oh, yeah. I picked him up in my fantasy league towards the end of the year. A guy who's really big. He's become jacked since he left. And
I just want to see you keep shaking your head.
Yeah.
in agreement. Because you just told me you couldn't think of anybody, and now you're just like, yes, I agree. So go ahead, Ryan. keep making sure Jeremy knows why he was wrong.
It's a tough one because there's not a whole lot of guys. Like, I thought of LaShawn McCoy too, just because I love LaShawn McCoy, and I would have loved to see him come up with Josh Allen. But you look at the rest of this, maybe you could say, Robert Foster left on the bet when they came in, right? They never coached him, but they never re-signed him when McDermott came into the building. I guess B never really had an opportunity to re-sign him. I'll always have a soft spot in my heart for Sammy Watkins, and I think he's a guy who's still got, to this point, still has upside and a lot of talent. But I think Logan Thomas is the guy who's left besides Wyatt Teller, obviously. Wyatt Teller's obviously answer, like you said. But Logan Thomas, the one guy who's left and really become a productive player.
Before I get to you, Manny, here, I think this is the comment. Chris Janke said he answered my question up there. If I could just get to the scrolling mechanism on my mouse is not working here. Is this the correct answer, what you were talking about, Chris Janke? Trey White's backup in 2017 was Sharice Wright. Edmonds' backup in 2018 was Julian Stanford. So would you want either Sharice Wright or Julian Stanford back if you're talking about those comments? Before you get to your pick there, Manny, do you agree with Chris?
Oh, yeah. Like, you that's a necessity start like that McDermott had to do. It wasn't, if he had better cornerbacks and middle linebacker, he'd probably ease them in, and maybe we would have a different Edmonds, right, if he was eased in and not thrown in at like 19 years old. Half the people don't even know what they're going to be doing at 19 years old for life.
Okay, Manny, here's one for you. Why is Sammy Watkins being mentioned? Manny, do you agree? Would you want Sammy Watkins back?
No. I'm a big guy on veteran leadership, and I think as a team, they got Jerry Hughes, they got, Allen's a leader, but I like the old vet, the one old vet. And I think one guy that had a great impact on this team, and it was for 1 year, it was Frank Gore. I know he doesn't perform much, but as a guy who can mentor those two, like Singletary and Moss, I think is huge. And sometimes we kind of miss that. I think as fans, that what they provide, other than just on the field, it's off the field too, is huge.
The one guy I had written down, and this would have been April 24th of 2017, when the Bills did not match a contract tender from the Patriots for anybody?
Ooh.
2007. No, and he would be back, but I would take him back, except for what he talked about against Buffalo, and he wouldn't quite be a schematic fit. But this would have been an offensive player who kind of, Bills fans. No, not Chris Hogan. Bills fans started to have a that has been answered in the comment section. Mike Gillislee.
Touchdown Mike.
Big touchdown Mike. I definitely would have him back, at the very least to compete with Devin Singletary and Zach Moss back there. That would be awesome. But Brandon Beane did not match the contract tender from the Patriots. So that would be my one guy I think it could make this team.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go for it.
First off, Ryan, like Logan Thomas, like great, like oversight, like my bad. That was amazing. And also Sammy Watkins. I hope some team takes his experience and presents it to NASA so we can figure out how to teleport somewhere, anywhere, because he knows it. He's experienced it. And I just hope we can gain that technology too. Thank you.
Shout out to Jeff King, another $20 into the super chat. Jeff King, you are the man tonight. He says shout out to Dan Mitchell for stopping in. So Dan Mitchell, thank you for stopping in. The butterfly effect causing Jeff King to hit us up with the super chat. Chris Janke coming in with a fun fact. Let's see here. It just skipped up on me. Chris Janke, fun fact, the compensatory pick the Bills got for Gillislee turned out to be Matt Milano. So that worked out in our favor, I think. But I still think if we signed him to a free agent contract, he might have a chance to push for a roster spot.
One other I had that I think back to too was a guy that was kind of part of the trade that it was two different trades, but part of that couple trades that kind of helped reset this roster, which Ronald Darby, he's a guy who's gone on to have a pretty good career. And we talk about the issues we have at cornerback too. And obviously, his picks were used for the greater good of the team. So I'm not saying we shouldn't have made that trade, but he's definitely a guy who's gone on to have a pretty good career who I would welcome back on this roster at the chance to play cornerback.
That was a trade that did not work out in our favor because do you recall who we got for Ronald Darby?
That was Jordan Matthews?
It was Jordan Matthews, and I would definitely take Darby back, even though I think, again, schematic fit, he's more of what am I trying to think of? We play more of a zone, and I don't think Darby's going to fit the zone nearly as much. Yeah, I would definitely take Darby back. I think he was a fan favorite. The Bills fans liked the way he played. So those are some of our topics. We're over an hour tonight, guys, but what we started with the show with, if you weren't here at the top of the show, was the 5 players we would expose to the NFL expansion draft. Now, because we have Ryan on, the garbage plate of Bill's Twitter, that is Ryan. I want to go around and name some foods we would expose if we just needed to let them go out of our lives forever. What food would we expose and get rid of? And Ryan, since your food takes seem to stir Twitter quite a bit, just give me a couple of food takes here. What would you get rid of? What would you say goodbye to forever if you had to expose them to an expansion draft?
I'm gonna give you 2. I'm gonna give you a food and a drink. I'm gonna give you a food and a drink. Number 1, my food, seafood. Don't need it. Leave it in the sea. Clams, shrimp, fish, lobsters. Fun fact: did you know lobsters they used to feed to prisoners, and prisoners got upset because you kept being fed sea insects? Don't need that. Seafood. Keep it in the ocean. Don't need it. And then for my drink, I don't need peanut butter either. So peanut butter. I don't need. Peanut butter's nasty, Chris. You know that.
Hi, Chris Janke.
And coffee. Never had coffee. It's gross. I go my whole life without needing caffeine in the morning. You can throw coffee out.
Let me just tell you, black coffee will change your life. It will absolutely change your life.
I've tried it with creamer. I've tried it black. I've tried it cold. I've tried it warm. I've tried tea. It's all terrible.
You're not drinking Canadian coffee. That's why.
Canadian coffee? What's that? Tim Hortons?
No, I'm just joking.
Okay, Manny, tell me what food would you get rid of for life? And why is the only correct answer kale?
Yeah.
Wait, we're going with food or meals?
You can go with anything if you want to.
Okay, so I'm thinking meals.
I'm a food junkie. I eat so much. I don't think I've made this body by eating lots of food. So there's not a lot that I won't eat. But there is a drink. I hate Dr. Pepper. It's like cough medicine.
Whoa.
I get rid of Dr. Pepper. It's like drinking Buckley's. That's how it tastes. So if there was anything I would get rid of is that. Food.
Let me just say, Dr. Pepper and rum go very well together, hand in hand. Like it's just
rum's good.
If you're gonna
a lot of others.
Good to know.
But yeah, Dr. Pepper. Food.
I like this comment from Truth to Heart. Of course, you guys are coming in hot and heavy, so I can't click on the right one. Anything that vegans suggest.
My wife is a vegetarian since birth, so I have to deal both with the non-veg and the meat eater. But food, I'll eat anything. Really, you put it in front of me, I'll eat it probably. Okay,
Ryan, I think you have something you want to get rid of, and I agree with why. Olives. I can't eat olives.
Somebody finally answered my thing. Olives, I hate. Don't put it on pizza. Don't put it on anything. Like, I don't want it. There's one I'll get rid of.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
I have 2 things, and the first thing is personal. And that is to my dad, because I know my dad's watching. And my dad is a very good cook. Like, he barbecues, he smokes, he does so much stuff. But one time he made some type of pasta. I think it was like a Thai pasta, and it had a peanut sauce. And the peanut sauce basically was like runny peanut butter, and I hated it. So peanut butter sauce, get that out of here. Dad, I'm sorry. I've loved everything else that you've made me. It's been so good. But runny peanut butter sauce on pasta, no. Get it out of here. Like, it's my new religion. Done. My backup food that I'm going to cut out is tuna sandwiches. If you go to a sandwich place and you order a tuna sandwich, do you not know of other sandwiches? There are so many other sandwiches available for you to eat, and you are choosing a tuna sandwich. If you are married, if you have a wife and kids, do you understand what you're doing to them? Like, that is ridiculous. Like, I'm sorry. If you order tuna sandwiches, I'm going to leave the stream. All right. Because I'm sorry.
And Jeremy just outed himself out of the stream. Let's get him back in here because
sorry. All right.
You know what? I do like it because a tuna sandwich at home, if you make it, you add the celery, the dill relish, the mayo, the mustard. You can do tuna fish nice. John Herring, I'm putting this up there just because he used the correct term in this, and that is soda, because there is no pop in soda there, while there is baking soda in soda. So we had that debate on Bill's Twitter this week, pop and soda. But if I had to pick two, the first one is, again, Concord grape jelly. I love peanut butter and jelly, but my mom would only buy Concord grape jelly when I was a little kid. And it took me forever to sneak the strawberry jelly into the cart so that I wouldn't have to eat any more grape jelly. Concord grape jelly can just say goodbye. Number two is ranch. And I'm going to leave you all with that. This has been the Rico Report. It's blue cheese or nothing for those wings. Get rid of ranch. It's for toddlers and their vegetables, and that's all you need. That's the only thing that ranch goes with. I'm sorry, but ranch just needs to be kicked out of the house, vetoed out, and voted out. So, Ryan, what do you got to say?
This might be my last time on Buffalo Fanatics, but I don't like blue cheese at all, and I prefer ranch.
Hey, what's your Twitter handle there, Ryan? At SportsRock2. SportsRock, ROC2. You can get at him for not wanting blue cheese. Man, Don Keith, I'm sorry. Ranch over blue cheese? Sorry. No, thank you. Why is that a thing? I hope you're referring to ranch. So this has been the Rico Report. Thank you, everybody, for joining. That is Ryan in your upper right-hand corner, Jeremy down in the right, and Manny below me. I am Jeff Landers. I am back on Friday for the Rico Report, and I have his name's Chris Rankel. I worked with him here in Idaho Falls, and he was a sports reporter at the TV station. He has moved on to a TV station in Cincinnati, so he's in the Bengals locker room a lot. He knows Joe Burrow, but he's also a Cleveland Browns fan. So I invited him on to debate me on whether Baker or Burrow can be better than Josh Allen this season. So that'll be Friday's Rico Report. Let's do the old air raid hour. Let's get a go Bills from all of us before we sign off for this Rico Report. And everybody,
go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Connection's terrible.